morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, and wherever you may be. Welcome back to another edition of 10-Minute Theology. If you remember, we've been going through the Judgment Seat of Christ, and today we'll address part 3 of this series as we continue to march through some of the verses. We're going to look at 2 different verses today, so let's go ahead and jump in. And first, a quick reminder of where we've been. 2 Corinthians 5:10, always worth rereading. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may be recompensed, paid back, for his deeds in the body according to what he has done, whether good or bad. And if you remember last week, we talked about a good definition or maybe a better translation for the word bad here would be worthless. If you didn't see that episode, go back and take a look at episode or part 2 of this series, and you'll see how we talked more about that looking at Blue Letter Bible. So worth remembering. Also, don't forget, because I hear this all the time when I talk about the subject, okay? 3 key points. 1, you cannot earn your way to heaven. That's not what we're saying, okay? You're saved by the grace of God. You're not saved by your works. You're not saved by anything else other than the selfless act of Jesus Christ who died for you. That's how you're saved, and that you don't earn your salvation. So please don't misunderstand this subject that's what it means. Also, it doesn't mean that you can lose your salvation. We're talking about gaining things, and we talk about losing things. We're not talking about earning your salvation. We're not talking about losing your salvation. It's also important to remember that eternal security is not a license to sin. So the fact that you cannot lose your salvation isn't carte blanche to go out and do whatever you want. If that's the way you're living your life, then you need to have a serious look inward at yourself to decide, do you truly have a saving relationship or not? But let's march on. So let's look at the first verse today, and we'll take a look at this and see where we get. 1 Corinthians 3, and we're going to start with 4 through 7, although we'll march down through more verses of the chapter. Interesting chapter, and really as you get to the beginning of it, if you go back in verses 1 through 3, Paul's kind of admonishing them again, and the church in Corinth, clearly they had some problems. Theme of the book seems to be correction of the church. Regardless of that, he's concerned that, they're not growing the way they should be. He talks about how he needed to give them milk before instead of solid food, and in fact, he still can't give them solid food. In other words, they have not grown in their spiritual walk at all. And also now they're starting to be jealous of each other in who it was that converted them. Was it Paul? Was it Apollos? And we pick up the story in this part here, and it's important for us to take a look at this and see what's going on. So in verse 4, 1 Corinthians 3, verse 4, for when one says, I am of Paul, and another, I am of Apollos, are you not mere men? What then is Apollos? And what is Paul? Servants through whom you believed, even as the Lord gave opportunity to each one. I planted, Apollos watered, but God was causing the growth. Keep in mind, this is Paul talking. So then neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but God causes the growth. So this is a really good section to remember, because you'll encounter people sometimes who almost with a sense of pride, right, talk about the number of believers, number of people that they have, quote unquote, led to Jesus Christ, right? I led them to the Lord. I led them to Christ, okay? Take them back to 1 Corinthians 3, 4 through 7. Say, great, fantastic for their efforts, and you're glad they're out there doing that. But if they're being arrogant about it, maybe they should look at this and they should really focus on verse 7. So neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but God causes the growth. Now, let's pick up the rest of the story, because that's not where it ends. You're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, aren't we told to go preach the word and go preach the saving grace of Jesus Christ? We are. So let's keep marching here, because we're going to get more to the story. Okay, verse 8. Now, he who plants and he who waters are one, but each one will receive his reward according to his own labor. So again, here, now we're being introduced to a concept of rewards. Verse 9, for we are God's fellow workers. You are God's field, God's building, according to the grace of God which was given to me. Like a wise master builder, I laid a foundation, and another is building on it. But each man must be careful how he builds on it. For no man can lay a foundation other than one which is laid, which is Jesus Christ. Now, if any man builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, each man's work will become evident, for the day will show it, because it is to be revealed with fire, and the fire itself will test the quality of each man's work. If any man's work which he has built on remains, he will receive a reward. If any man's work is burned up, he will suffer loss, but he himself will be saved, yet through the fire. So a good thing to remember here, right? Clearly, we're expected to do things in this lifetime. Okay, we just don't idly walk around as a believer and hide within the confines of our safe little church and our safe little house and do nothing. We got to get out there. But second of all, we are rewarded for the work that we are done. God is causing the growth, but God is rewarding his labors, as we see through this. And then also notice at the end of this section, there in verses 13 through 15, that the motivation of our work will become evident. The reasons why we did it will become evident, which is clear here as well. Okay, because it's going to be revealed. So when the test is applied, God knows the true motive of our heart and why we were out doing what we did, and he will reward us accordingly. Okay, and keep in mind, this is Paul that's talking here, right? The author of 1 Corinthians. So he is talking to the church in Corinth. Let's go look at another section of 1 Corinthians. We're going to jump ahead to chapter 9 now. And this is a fascinating section, and let's see what Paul has to say there. Chapter 9, 24 through 27. Paul talking again. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may win. Everyone who competes in the game exercises self-control in all things. They then do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. Therefore I run in such a way as not without aim. I box in such a way as not beating the air, but I discipline my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified. So don't forget, this is Paul talking. Verse 27 again, I discipline my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified. What was Paul worried about? Being disqualified. What is he talking about? Being disqualified from heaven? Losing his salvation? Don't forget, no, we're not talking about that, right? Remember, we cannot lose our salvation. So there's got to be something more to it. So let's go over and take a look at the Blue Letter Bible. And I have it pre-populated already. Let's take a look at this section, specifically verse 927, because there's some interesting words there that should jump out at us. So we go to our tools, again, click on interlinear, and we get this screen, which is fantastic. And as I look at this, right, I sit there and I see, I discipline my body, and I go, I wonder what the word discipline is all about. So here you see it right there. It's already highlighted for us, which is handy. See, as you move around, it'll highlight. So that's great. Hupopiazo is the word. And if we click on the Strong's number here, it takes us off to another screen and gives us a little more information on the word. Scroll down here and take a look and notice that the biblical usage, to beat black and blue, to smite as to cause bruises, like a boxer buffets his body. I mean, the picture that Paul painted of a boxer back up in the previous verses is very good here. Look at the word itself in the Strong's definition. It's from a compound and a derivative of some other words, right? And it says to hit under the eye, to tease or annoy, subdue, keep under, weary. If we would go up and go now to Vine's expository dictionary, we can click on that and scroll down and take a look here. Let's view it in context so we can see the whole word. And notice here, to strike under the eye, up here, again to strike. Interesting definitions, right? In order to keep himself spiritually fit, it's given us a little description of Paul, how he was talking about using it. So the context of that is clearly appropriate. The words that, imagine that Paul chose, right? Under direction of the Spirit of God. Let's look at one more word in this verse. So let's go back to the interlinear again, and I'm really curious the word at the end. I myself will not be disqualified. What is he talking about there? What does that word mean? So let's scroll down to the word. Here we go, disqualified. Adokimos. Okay, adokimos is the word. Dokimoi, you see there, and it shows the different times that it's used. If we go up here, the dictionary entry. And let's scroll down and take a look at the biblical usage here, not standing the test, not approved, properly used of metals and coins, that which does not prove itself, such as it ought, unfit, unproved, spurious. Go down a little more. Strong's gives us that here. Let's look at where the vines. Here's the vines. Let's click on the vines and take a look at this. Notice here, signifies not standing the test, rejected. Okay, so again, it gives us that feeling, right? That, hey, is it, what happened here to it? Is it that he's disqualified from heaven? No, that his works are not standing the test. So once again, we have that feeling that, again, it's not just like if we go back to the word bad, right? Within 2 Corinthians 5:10, how it was good or bad, worthless. Here we get the idea that I myself will not be disqualified. Why? Because the works are worthless. So once again, we see that, and it's great to be able to look at the different components of the text. Use the Blue Letter Bible, fantastic tool for you. But think about these, dwell on these verses, and then kind of have a think about yourself. And what is motivating you to do the things that you do? That maybe other people think that you're an upstanding, very religious and very dedicated follower of Jesus Christ. But yeah, what is your motivation for doing those? That can be something that if you look inwardly and really consider it thoughtfully before the Lord, make those decisions and then try to decide on your own. With prayer, clearly. How are you living your life? And are you doing the things that God wants you to do? And are you using the gifts He's given you for His glory? Important to remember. Brings us to the end of another episode, the end of part 3. We'll see you next time for part 4 as we have a few more things to go over. Look forward to seeing it there. I pray you have a great week. Take care, everybody. Stay out of trouble. And I pray you have a God-honoring week. Take care, everybody.